food. I'm not fucking simping for big
You guys
food.
say the pivot when I didn't even bring up aspartame. I gave Chris 5 minutes to talk about aspartame when I said I wasn't
Yes, I
knowledgeable
think
on
it'd
the
be good
topic.
to get. I think it'd be good. I don't think that, again. My problem is I don't even what you just said in itself doesn't make any sense. I don't think you know what you're talking about. What does it
Well,
mean
no,
to
no,
say?
I just don't accept status quo like you.
So Americans' health outcomes are very bad. My argument for why they're bad is because we have no type of education, no good type of education around food. We have a lot of places in America combined with that education, places where you literally cannot access whole quality food.
Totally agree.
The only things you can access in your area are like fast food and maybe like a dollar.
Completely agree, Chris.
Okay, right. So a Dollar General, which Dollar General is going to sell like highly processed frozen meat, for example. That's not a whole. That's highly processed, and it doesn't have a lot of nutrients, right? So that's two. So we agree. Fantastic. So we need to fix those two issues. And number three,
Completely agree, dude.
great. And I would partly argue the third issue is, in general, just capitalism, and not to say that capitalism is, capitalism is capitalism, but the reason that people are more obese than ever is because just statistically in human history, everybody has more money than ever before and has more time to do nothing. And because we're rich and we're not like hunting for food, we can go buy, I can literally take a vehicle because of the technology that we have. I can take a vehicle where small explosions in the front of my car will propel me forward to the nearest McDonald's, where for $6, I can get like 2 cheeseburgers and a medium French fry and delete 1,000 calories of garbage in like 5 minutes. That's just what generally happens because we're evolving. Those 3 things I think need to be solved. People need to eat a whole food diet. And the reason, again, we're having this conversation is I get frustrated because I don't think in any of that conversation that those are 3 really big problems. When you talk about things like the chemicals in our food, I think it's a massive distraction that has nothing to do with the 3 main problems.
Sure. But Chris, I guess my concern is that
Ryan, I love you.
you talk about these crazy people.
Wait, no, I'm gonna let you finish. I promise. Chat, there's a guy in the chat. There's a guy in the chat named Ryan Brenner. He's a literal fitness dude on TikTok. Go to. I love Ryan. You guys should drop him a follow. Dude teaches how to cook some good meals. Also, I think Ryan might be sponsored by. Are you sponsored by Echo? No, you probably have some TikTok stuff for Echo Vision. I've never posted a TikTok shop video, but I'd be deleting these Echo Vision orange creamsicle drinks. Anyway, go ahead, sorry.
So, Chris, my concern is that if we try and make Robert Redfield and who's this Casey Means that I brought up, it's anyone on the left who's like combating these opinions. You talk about how the science is totally with you that, having chemicals in the food like isn't the problem, it's totally good, but I never see them public facing. I saw Fauci during COVID. Chris, real quick, so my question is, when RFK drops a book like The Truth About Anthony Fauci and he never gets sued about it with 900 references, and we see what happened with Brian Thompson, Free Luigi, the chat agrees with me, like, who are these voices on the left that are really speaking out against this and caring about the state of American health and the future of our children, but saying that the current state of where things are at is good? Because I just don't see anyone on the left talking about this, except Bernie did in the past, and he has the same positions as RFK.
Sure. So wait, I'm going to go back just for 1 second. I think this is where we're like fundamentally misunderstanding each other. I know it's been heated, but you said there, what you said that, I say that chemicals in the food are not the way you said that was like, I claim, what's my claim? That chemicals in the food are not the problem? Or are not, I think you said that chemicals in the food are not a problem.
You're really upset about the people who say get the 800 processed chemicals out of our food, and you say it's a caloric problem. So I'm just like, I'm trying to understand. It seems like you promote status quo.
Right. So I think there's like a misunderstanding there where and again, I'm just going to like reference Red 40.
I asked for the scientists. Please don't pivot. I asked for the scientists. Who on the left talks about this?
I would like to address the first point about you.
Please also address that.
I will. But first I want to start with the claim that you're talking about for me. Like when I say that, when I get angry at things like the 800 chemicals in food, I'm not saying that those chemicals are good or they are not a problem. What I'm saying is that we have a massive problem in the United States. And because of this problem that we have being caused by like overeating and not eating whole foods, that focusing on things like Red 40 with links to cancer are not really advantageous at all to solving the main problem. If we so hold on. So Red 40 is not good, right? So if we can agree that, like, let's just say right now that there's enough science to show that Red 40 has a link to cancer. I'm not saying that Red 40 should stay in our food. What I'm saying is that in this moment, as we talk about saving human lives and the fact that that we're seeing really negative health outcomes in the United States, focusing on Red 40 causing cancer seems like a really fucking small problem.
Brought up Red 40,
I know. I'm just talking about the 800 chemicals, the chemicals in the food, these chemicals that are doing evil things to our body. That seems like a not important conversation to have right now. That's just confusing people, as opposed to just, hey, let's focus on a conversation.
That's a red herring fallacy. That's a red herring fallacy. I never talked about Red 40. You're talking about a group of people that you don't like.
Can you talk about the 800? Then define 800 chemicals, please.
Look, the fact that it's true doesn't mean that I have to define it. I want you to go back to hey, the scientist. Remember the first point.
I will address that.
Who is the scientist on the left?
Hold on. I will address that, but please, this is key to your entire argument. This makes no sense. Like, okay, first of all, again, Ryan in the chat, who's someone who's a fitness guy on TikTok, who I actually like, quote, "It's so confusing. It took me years to figure out how to lose weight because so much misinfo." And again, this is part of why I'm passionate about this, is when we add a bunch of shit that really doesn't matter, it does nothing but confuse people. It's so simple. The process to being like healthier than 95% of Americans is incredibly fucking simple, but because of these conversations, it makes it difficult. I think that's exactly how I feel, is how Ryan said that. But going back, like, this is a key part of your argument. I mentioned Red 40 because I'm talking generally about chemicals in the food. You need to define what you mean when you say, I want to get rid of the 800 plus chemicals in the food. So fair. You need to be able to, like, actually describe that at a deep level.
Titanium dioxide.
Okay, let's go one by one. Just give me a couple. Give me a couple and why they're negative.
Well, they're banned in Europe. Why are they banned in Europe? Europe has better health outcomes.
What's banned in Europe?
These chemicals that are allowed in the US.
Name a couple chemicals that are banned in Europe that are in the United States.
Titanium dioxide.
Let's go one by one. Let's go one by one to see how much we really.
But you were gonna answer the science. The scientist thing, Chris. Please, can you address that?
No. I am, but again, this is a key part because you made a claim about my.
Well, now I'm backing it with chemicals that are allowed in our food.
The main difference between
that's a problem.
The UK and the US have not banned the use of titanium dioxide. The EU banned it in 2022. And the UK Food Standard Agency decided not to follow the EU's ban, and the FDA also kept it in the food, but with restrictions. And for the record, the FDA restricts titanium dioxide to 1% by weight of the food, which they believe in the studies that the European Union did, if they can at least limit it to 1% by weight of the food, that it will not cause damage to DNA and lead to cellular mutation. So right there, perfect example. We named the first chemical, and not only did you get it wrong that it was banned in the UK, but you're obviously like, it's being
incredible. Banned it. I said
I'm sorry, the UK. It's being purposely misleading and confusing to tell people that we have scary food that, like, the FDA is doing nothing about. But it looks like
the UK has it, but the EU doesn't. I don't understand what the problem is. That's not different from my claim. I said Western Europe. Okay, there's one country that doesn't. Hey, so, Chris, can we go back to a scientist?
So this
on
is
the Democratic side.
Can you? I will talk about that, but you have to engage with what I'm saying.
It's really important, Chris.
You have to engage with what I'm saying right now, please. This is important because I heard UK. I heard UK, and we can correct that. But again, it's the EU has banned it, but the UK decided not to ban it, and the US decided not to ban it. And the first chemical you named, the FDA decided in 2022 to put restrictions on it and limited it to 1% by weight of the food.
Sounds like they saw a problem with it and put restrictions. I'm on the side of getting it out. Okay. Like, it's not that extreme.
But when you come up here and you tell me that my platform is used to divide people, but you like what the first chemical you named of all these chemicals that are allowed in the UK that aren't allowed in the US, you were just you probably didn't know that the FDA put any restrictions on it, but you're being like purposely misleading and scaring people by saying, guys, there's this chemical in the US that the UK didn't ban, which not only is not true because the UK didn't
Europe,
ban
bro.
it, but there's also
It's a
restrictions on it.
fallacy.
Did you know that the FDA had put restrictions on titanium dioxide? Yes or no?
The UK? No, I didn't know that. But
No, the US. The US. That the US has more restrictions on titanium dioxide than the UK does. Did you know that?
That's fine. I said Europe. Yeah, I never brought up the UK, Chris. You did.
Did you know that the FDA put any restrictions on this chemical? Did you know that the FDA put any restrictions on this chemical?
I did not know that,
Okay,
but I
that's
know.
fine. Give me a couple more chemicals, and I'll talk to you about the doctors on the left. Give me a couple more chemicals that are so
Can
dangerous.
you address the doctors on the left? It's been about 20 minutes.
No, because this is frustrating.
You're avoiding it, Chris. Why are you avoiding it?
That is like one of my most like topics that like I feel like no one talks about, but I'm so passionate about that shit. And it's so infuriating to me that nobody understands what everyone says I'm like selling out to big food. I'm like, dude, this is fucking crazy. And as Ryan said, as somebody who like I feel like I have a general knowledge of like what in the last year I've become significantly more like food aware than I was in the previous year, just like health aware. Like what I'm putting in my body, how many calories each thing has. You know, for example, if you go out to like a restaurant, like most entrees at a restaurant are 1,100 calories plus. There's no getting away from it. The fucking appetizer you have, you're just deleting 700 calories. It's very easy in the United States, and it's unbelievably easy to overeat, and most people don't know it. When you start to become like, and part of I was so scared of this area of life because, as Ryan said. Ryan, I might still be in the chat, who literally does fitness on TikTok, it's so confusing. He was like, it took me so long to lose weight because there's so much shit flying around. And the conversation I just had, nonsense, it doesn't even matter. None of that matters. Fucking how much titanium dioxide you eat does not matter. The chemicals in the food that are destroying your gut microbiome, shut the fuck up. Being healthy in the United States, having the body you want or the life you want or being able to actually hang out with your friends and not be winded literally comes down to eating a diet, 80% of whole nutritious food that's high in protein. Do things moderately. So like if you want to have a soda, if you want to have a Coca-Cola that has a lot of sugar in it, great. Just like, I don't know, maybe have one like once or twice a week. You want to have fast food? Fantastic. Maybe just have it once or twice a week. Focus on 80% whole foods in your diet. Drink some water and go walk. And I guarantee in 6 to 12 months, you will be fucking healthier than 90% of America right there. You want to talk about losing weight? Go figure out your basal metabolic rate, how many calories you burn doing absolutely nothing. Let's say it's 2,000 calories. Spend 3 days tracking how many calories you eat. Just don't restrict yourself. It's like, okay, I'm going to go like get Starbucks in the morning, boom, but I'm going to figure out how many calories are in it. I'm going to go get fucking food later in the day for lunch, see how many calories are in it. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, like in my Starbucks drink in the morning, that's 400 calories. Damn, that's a lot. And all of a sudden halfway through the day, you're at fucking 1,900. And boom, you just kind of started figuring out, wow, I'm more food aware. So why don't we subtract some of the things that have little nutrients in them and we'll start cooking at home. So you can cook like a pound of 93.7 ground beef that has fucking 600 calories in it and has 110 grams of protein. And you can start your day instead of a Starbucks drink with like a black coffee and protein because protein's like a satiating macronutrient. So you won't be hungry later in the day. You'll feel more full. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I still like enjoy my stuff. If I want to have a cheeseburger from McDonald's, I have a cheeseburger. I drink soda sometimes, but now mainly I'm like eating cooked food and tracking the calories and I'm eating a lot more protein. So I feel a lot more full and you've just lost a bunch of weight and you're way healthier than everybody else and you feel way better. Fantastic. Boom. Done. Like any other conversation around fucking red 40 or titanium dioxide, run far, far away, dude. It's just so ridiculous. It's so, I can't do this anymore. If you're supporting Donald Trump, let me know. I'll debate you. I just can't. I can't. It's just unbelievable, dude. That's right. Well, today I had fucking Shake Shack and a cookies and cream milkshake. But the thing is, self-aware, food aware. Do you know how many calories I deleted in the Shake Shack meal I had today? That burger I had, add fucking crispy onions, probably was 800 calories at least. It was probably more like 1,000. The fries on the side that I didn't finish were like 500. The milkshake was like 650. So think about that for a second. That's a burger, a side of fries, and a milkshake. And that's what I say. Like, let's say like 800 plus like 5 plus like 7. That's 1,500. That's 2,000 calories almost. My basal metabolic rate is probably like 1,800 calories if I don't move or do anything. So you literally could have your entire daily intake, caloric intake, in one sitting for Shake Shack. That's what I did today. And when I did that, you know what I didn't get any of? I didn't really get any nutrients. My protein intake wasn't fucking 200 grams. My protein intake in that entire meal was like 60 grams, right? So I'm going to feel hungry later, even though I ate a fuckload. I'm going to feel like shit because there's a lot of just general nutrients in that meal that don't exist, right? I didn't have a fucking vegetable. And you see how quickly you can feel like shit and be overweight. Well, if you do what I did today. Who's here, by the way? Who are we talking about that's here? Yo, Squally, what's up? Good to see you. I had who? RC is here. Who's I don't see that guy requesting. I don't know who that is. Well, he's not requesting, so I won't add him. I don't know who that is. At least I don't think. Wait, I'm kind of curious now. Who's this individual? Can I add him? Can I add this person? These people are afraid to debate me. He got kicked from Harry's live? Well, he's not here. Like he hasn't. Did he just give me a heart? I want to hear this guy, but he's not requesting. If you are in here and you got kicked from Harry's live, you can like come in here, but I don't know. Please don't do it. Wow. He's in the chat begging? Wait, where? Am I like missing this guy? Thwarkus? What is this? Where is he? Dude, oh my God. You will regret it? Is it really that bad? All right, now you guys are just making me curious. Julius says interesting character. What? Can you request if you're here? I'll let you up. Oh, there you are. Oh my! I think I've seen you in fucking Dean and Parker's live before, dude. Is this the guy who just like?
Oh, it's Chris Mowry. I see.
This is like the troll dude. He like turns on his camera and is like,
I'm no troll. I'm the highest IQ conservative. It's not a troll.
But are you like? Did you like say you were 6'6" on Parker's live or Dean's live?
I didn't say I was 6'6". They read it in my bio, and then we confirmed it with the door height.
I understand. And you were like in the live the other day in your car, and you turned on your camera, and you were like,
"That's me." Oh, you're a fan?
No, I was scrolling my For You page actually before I got on, and I saw like some clip of like Dean and Parker, and I saw you there, and I watched like half it. I was like, what the fuck? And like halfway through, I actually remember thinking to myself, like this was an hour ago. I was like, oh my God, this dude's like a top tier troll. Like he sounds
troll, conservative, genius.
Well, at least in that video, I was like, you sound so ridiculous. It's obvious that like you're just like clout chasing, which is fine. I mean,
I have real debates with Parker pretty often.
About what?
About what do you guys do, Donald Trump, and why?
Okay, so let's why did you vote for Donald Trump? Just I've never talked to you before, so let me.
Yeah, let's get to the bottom of this. He's not an authoritarian like Kamala.
Elaborate, please.
Well, her and Joe Biden pressured the Facebook administration Facebook to censor COVID, quote unquote, misinformation in the Hunter Biden laptop story. Chris, did you know that?
Yeah. So the Supreme Court ruled on a case like very similar to that. Are you familiar with that case?
Which one?
I think it's literally titled Biden administration versus like social, or it's like Let me get the exact title for you. Hold on. It's like Biden administration social media. Hold on. Biden admin social media SCOTUS. Supreme Court side. So this was the very conservative Supreme Court. 2024. The Supreme Court rules for Biden administration in a social media dispute with conservative states. The Supreme Court on Wednesday sided with the Biden administration in a dispute with Republican-led states over how far the federal government can go to combat controversial social media topics, including COVID-19 and election security. By a 6-3 vote, again, this is the Supreme Court that Donald Trump practically hand-selected, the justices threw out lower court rulings that favored Louisiana, Missouri, and other parties in their claim that federal officials leaned on the social media platforms to unconstitutionally squelch conservative points of view. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote for the court that the states and other parties did not have the legal right or standing to sue. The case is among several that around social media, blah, 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 blah. The states had argued the White House communication staffers, the Surgeon General, the FBI, the U.S. Cybersecurity Agency are among those who applied unrelenting pressure to coerce change in online content on social media platforms. The justices appeared broadly skeptical of those claims during arguments in March.
Is this a read aloud, Chris?
And several worried that common interactions between government officials and the platforms could be affected by a ruling for the states. So,
I disagree with the Supreme Court decision.
You disagree? I did get it. The most conservative Supreme Court in fucking modern American history.
Yeah, they're not conservative enough. I'm far right.
So then let's
far
talk.
Right, Chris. You got to know the facts.
That's fantastic. So then let's talk about this is what I would say is horseshoe theory, even though it's been like widely debunked. So
yeah, you're a centrist. I know horseshoe theory. Far right.
Yeah. So well, here's the problem. Are you claiming right? Like in this claim where you say you disagree with the Supreme Court on this ruling around the Biden administration being able to pressure social media sites, are you claiming that the federal government doesn't have a First Amendment right?
I think they're infringing on it by doing that.
Wait. So when Donald Trump gets on a stage during his administration and he looks straight down, he looks at a CNN reporter and says
he wants to punish for burning the American flag?
No. That I was actually going to say, he says, CNN, you're fake news. The story you wrote about me this week is fake, gross news, and you should take it down. He's the president of the United States telling a private company that they should take something down. And why is that not unreasonable?
So I don't know why you guys always go to this example of Trump said that the company was fake news. Yeah, that's totally free speech, and I'm totally cool with that.
Okay, so then why is what
Biden were to do that?
So why is what the Biden administration did?
It was government pressure.
Wait, why is that? Wait, so my question is, why is what the Biden administration did government pressure, but what Donald Trump did was not?
No.
Wait, what do you mean no? I'm asking why.
Calling something fake news is different than pressuring a platform to take down information.
What did the Biden administration do to pressure these companies?
They use their governmental powers. You got a big corporation.
You're not saying anything. You need to be more specific than
Zuckerberg clarified that they did pressure him and he regrets doing it. And what they did is they used their governmental power. If a corporation like Facebook needs the government's permission for things like identification and a bunch of things that a company like Facebook would need. Mm-hmm. So getting on the bad side of the government is not in their best interest.
Yeah. So, and again, I think like the Supreme Court ruled the correct way in saying that, like, when most of the judges were skeptical of that exact argument, they said in their arguments, they were asking questions like, wait a second, as a Supreme Court justice, I have worked in politics or in media, and this doesn't seem what the Biden administration did when they would send an email to Facebook and say, we think that this violates your terms of service. If you feel it necessary and appropriate, take it down. If not, that's fine. Sign politely, government. That's no different than what every administration ever has done. The Trump administration did it.
Why do you think Facebook regretted listening?
So hold on, two things. That type of discourse, both publicly and privately, between the White House and media companies has been going on since the dawn of radio. It happened that's part of why the Supreme Court so vehemently said, ruled in favor of the Biden administration, because there's nothing abnormal about the Biden admin emailing companies and saying, we think that you should take this down, especially when you look at the statistics. Like Facebook and Twitter, for example, during this time, agreed with the federal government and took these sources down less than 50% of the time. And that's publicly available data. Most of the time, they just said no.
Yeah, I just disagree with that Supreme Court decision. I think that's fucked up.
Okay. And what was it?
You can use your authoritarian governments to make corporations, media corporations, do what you want. And we might disagree on this. We can pivot to something else if you so want.
I just feel like I guess my question then becomes like, what does the government have any First Amendment right? Is the government allowed to contact social media? Is the government allowed to privately say anything to anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, you just say
The
that.
things they did it on were shady, like things like COVID misinformation, quote unquote. Who decides what misinformation is, Chris?
Well, I think actually the White House in those emails would say, you know, we believe not that we believe it's misinformation. We believe this goes against your terms of service listed here around misinformation. So it's actually arguing that Twitter, in their own rules, should take it down.
I thought we were talking about Facebook, not Twitter.
Oh, sorry, Facebook. Same idea.
Nah, man, I don't think that's true at all, Chris.
Well, we can pivot to something else. What else is there? What else do you want to talk about?
I'm a big fan of tariffs.
Why do you like tariffs?
They increase domestic production.
Okay, isn't there better ways to increase domestic production?
Just because there's a better way doesn't mean it's not a good way.
Okay, well,
What would be the better way, Chris? Hold on, you don't do the same talking points as Parker Dean. Let me hear this.
yeah, sure. So like when the Biden administration passed the CHIPS Act, they gave, you know, right now we see more spending in electrical manufacturing in the United States, according to the Treasury Department, like private investment in that field than ever before in American history. And that's because when the Biden administration passed the CHIPS Act, they gave private business in America a bunch of tax cuts and incentives to like create manufacturing facilities to create computer chips. And so it boosted domestic production by just using capitalism. It being like, hey, we'll give you tax breaks if you do
I think
this.
it would be to the consent that a flat 20%, or to the extent of a flat 20% tariff on everything.
Well, again, like obviously, like giving tax
Those aren't
cuts.
comparable.
Well, I'm just saying that's an example of like if you want to boost domestic production in a specific area, like we're spending an unbelievable. We've added more manufacturing jobs under the Biden administration than under the Trump administration, a lot because of that act alone. We're spending a tremendous.
What about the tariffs under the Biden administration?
So we can talk about that when we talk about like widespread tariffs. Don't you think that those bring like there's a lot of negatives involved in widespread tariffs, like inflation?
I think there's more nuance to it than most of the TikTok liberals think.
Why is that?
Because when people are spending more money on domestic goods, those companies have more money and they will pay American workers more.
Why would they be incentivized to pay workers more if they're making more money?
They would just have more profit. They wouldn't have to hire. Well, it also connects with, I'm not a fan of mass migration. They wouldn't have to hire all these immigrants to work for cheap.
Okay, but are you suggesting that like because they're making because they're making more money, they will just willingly?
Then we could start focusing on outpacing wages with inflation.
Oh, so private businesses will be focused on increasing wages. That's quite the bargain.
No, but as a country, if we are giving our attention more to them, they'd be less incentivized to raise prices because they don't have to compete with China.
Okay, so let's back up a second because even if you were talking about domestic production, when we implement these very widespread aggressive tariffs, like a lot of companies are going to continue to import goods from places like China, and they're just going to take the new inflated price and push it on the consumer, which will cause inflation. And you agree with that?
I think it's a more marginal increase than a lot of you guys think.
Well, I mean, the economist at Goldman Sachs said 1.5% in the first half of 2025. I think that's enough to like single-handedly, the S&P 500 and the Dow this year have hit, I don't know, like somewhere around, don't quote me exactly, it's like 55-ish, 50-ish all-time highs. I think that's 1.5% inflation is more than enough to completely reverse course on something like the market and have businesses unemployed, laying off people because they're scared of a recession.
So your argument is tariffs are a net negative?
Yeah, I think that, again, like I think it cannot be overstated how do you have anything invested right now in the market?
Of course.
Okay. So like how was your stock portfolio over the last like 2 weeks?
Meh,
right.
Not
so
as good as it was
right. So
when Trump got elected, of course.
So I don't know what day this was. not, the week before Christmas on Friday, I think, or Thursday, the Fed, or maybe it was Wednesday, whatever. I think the Dow and the S&P had their worst day since like mid 2020. $3 trillion of market cap just obliterated. We had 10 straight red days in a row, which is our longest losing streak since 79 or something. But a lot of that came from the Fed announcing that they were going to cut rates. But they said, we're only going to cut rates twice in 2025 instead of 4 times, which was really unexpected. And they essentially signaled, hey, we think inflation is going to be a lot more stubborn than we previously expected. Why would that be? Because of Trump's widespread tariffs. And so they had to adjust their monetary policy to say, wait, inflation might stick around, so we can't cut rates as fast, which caused the market to fucking panic and go into a tailspin. So you're already seeing is in a very small way how the market's going to react.
We've also seen the market jump in a good way. So what is the point?
But the point is that like we've spent so long in this teetering of the economic market investors trying to figure out if there's going to be a massive recession. And I think if you tick up inflation even just 1%, there's going to be a lot more widespread damage in the economy than just a 1% of inflation.
But this is purely just off speculation. Sure.
That is speculative.
What would you have to say? Sorry, another pivot. If I said Trump is optically a better president in terms of having a strong military presence in the world, Trump's a better optically than a Biden or a Kamala.
Optically to who?
Enemies.
No, strong disagree.
Why?
Because I think we've 40 of Donald Trump's 44 cabinet members from his first term didn't endorse him for a second term, and every single one of his most important
because he's the most polarizing man in the past 100 years.
I actually think a lot of those people, you want me to pull up the quotes, like his top military general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the highest military general in the world, said
Didn't he overhear something at a funeral?
That guy spent every day in the Situation Room with Donald Trump and then came out and said he had no concept of foreign policy and was acted like a dictator. You also have his first Secretary of Defense saying he's the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, tries to divide us, doesn't have any concept of foreign policy. His second Secretary of Defense, quote, I think he's unfit for office. He puts himself before the country. His actions are all about him and not about the country. His first Secretary of State.
It's definitely known that him and his original cabinet are beefing, and they were lousy.
But some of these are like some really respected people. Like first Secretary of State said that Trump's understanding of global events, global history, and U.S. history was, quote, really limited, and it was really hard to have a conversation with him.
This might be conspiracy on my part, but aligning yourself with the most slandered man in the Orange Man Bad era, Trump, aligning yourself with that guy maybe wouldn't be the best move for anyone's long-term political careers.
Okay. But don't you think that like you would like Mark Milley, who served in Vietnam and is like one of the most respected U.S. military members, just in general, just period, in the country, saying that
he's a sellout. Yeah, that's my answer.
Oh, that he's a sellout.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Esper and James Mattis.
I don't even dispute that Trump's divisive, and I'm not a MAGA lover, but it was the better of the two.
Well, I guess my problem with like this, just one more thing on this, like his first Secretary of the Navy, Richard Spencer, quote, the president has very little understanding of what it means to be in the military, to fight ethically, or to be governed by a uniform set of rules and practices. Like these quotes are just go on and on and on and on from people who were around him.
There's a lot of incentive to ditch Trump.
But that's my problem is like, at what point is there ever going to, like, do you see how in that?
I will accept, Chris, there are critiques of Trump. I don't think he's as high IQ as people think. However, to take down the liberal establishment, I'm a far right conservative. I got to team up with that guy who's gonna bring the battering ram into the liberal establishment that was doing all the censoring, and you guys if something's offensive, you shouldn't be able to say it.
I got it. So can I let me ask a question? Is there ever like when I list some of those quotes and you say like they're sellouts, like, do you not see how some people might perceive that as like the only person you will trust is Donald Trump? Like
I
even the
actually
people.
just said there are critiques of Donald Trump. I
No,
kind of ironically said he's a sellout.
well,
I don't know
okay.
the details on that.
Sure, but I
specifically.
guess I'm just okay. I'm just saying that like it's like if these are all the literal closest people that Donald Trump handpicked from his first term, and they're all saying he has no idea what he's doing, it's kind of concerning to just be like, oh yeah, they're all bullshit. I still support Trump. It's like, wow, the only person you will
I
trust
said
is Trump.
he might be a dick, but he was the better option because the liberal establishment was a threat, in my opinion.
Chairman,
And they become what they hated. They aligned with corporations. It was all this hoopla.
wow. Okay. His second handpicked chief of staff, quote, Donald Trump is a person that has nothing but contempt for our democratic institutions, our constitution, and the rule of law. There is nothing more that can be said. God help us, unquote. His former acting chief of staff, quote, I quit because I think Donald Trump failed at being president when he needed him to be that, unquote. One of his
Trump were more far right. Maybe I'd like him.
One of his comms directors, quote, he is the domestic terrorist of the 21st century, unquote. Another comms director, quote, I'm terrified of him running in 2024.
Chris, yeah, I we can keep reading these. What do you as a liberal stand for? Or are you a social democrat?
What do I stand?
What's your vision for this country?
What's my vision for America?
Yes. You want less mass immigration, right?
I think what America's are what makes us very strong is our like diversity and willingness to let people in.
Wrong.
So like my vision for the future is like in America where, all right, he left. All right. Well, I feel like I kind of cooked that dude. Maybe I feel like I kind of just slaughtered that guy. He didn't really have a response so much. I was saying. Yeah, I think like diversity is like our strongest trait as in America. It's what makes us great. Double tap screen. Appreciate everyone being here. If not. Oh, excuse me. I've not heard from Dean. I talked to him a little bit on the phone last night, but he said he was all right. Dean's a good dude. I've talked to Dean in depth, in person, once or twice, and he's a good dude. Dean's strong. Dean's a strong kid. I think he's a smart dude, a strong guy. He'll be all right, but show him some love because he deserves it. Reese, I'm sorry. Sydney, thank you so much for $1. You're such a liar. It's way past 8:16. I've been saying. Yeah, I know. Rosie. I appreciate you a lot, Rosie. Thank you so much for $1. Anna. Official fandom name. Oh, all loves you and says hi. Well, hello. I appreciate you. Shout out. Sharpeen is the fandom name. Okay. Sydney, thanks so much for $1. Take a shot every time guest says status quo. Oh, I'd literally be dead. Rosie, fix my headphones. On out that I agree with everything you said about the diet thing. As someone who can't eat a lot of foods, I'm always reading ingredients. There's so much unhealthy stuff. Yeah, there is a lot. There's a lot. That is true. Wait, what the hell? Oh. What? All right, whatever. We live in a society. Please, what's wrong with my headphones? Are they tangled? Allie, thank you so much for $1. Do you think all my donos have been... Allie, you're very, very kind. I appreciate you so much. Dude, first of all, Allie, there's never any pressure to donate monetarily. Ever. I appreciate it so much, and I know you know it, but I just have to say it over and over again for everybody. Truly, there's never any pressure. I appreciate you so fucking much. You never know. Olivia, thank you so much for $10 on Venmo. I love you so much, and I'm so proud of the work you do and the fight you put in. As a woman, you are helping and being a wonderful supporter. Keep fighting. Olivia, huge W's in the chat for Olivia. $10, it means so fucking much. Goes a really long way. W's in the chat, everybody, and for Allie as well. Such a big supporter. Rosie, Sydney, Anna, and lastly, Blair. 50. Oh my goodness. Can I get a million W's in the chat for Blair? $50 on Venmo. That is unbelievably gracious and kind. Happy late Merry Christmas. Glad I got to watch tonight. Blair, you are so fucking kind. I appreciate you so much. W's in the chat. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Truly, truly, truly. I don't take that for granted. You fucking rock. Wow, that's incredible. I can't say it enough. Thank you so much. Thank you so fucking much. Thank you so fucking much. W is Blair. Really appreciate you. Let me up. I can prove you wrong. All right, you can prove me wrong. And I'm, 6'6" and playing the NBA. We all have wild, dreams and fantasies.
Okay.
Won't come true. Hello.
So this is why Donald Trump was the best thing to ever happen to the United States. Because we are about to go through exactly what Germany had to go through. And we are going to actually end up having to go through like the whole Civil War thing. I believe that is actually coming. And I'm not a Trump supporter, by the way. But Trump literally has showed the worst of our nation, and he brought it all the way up to the boiling point, to the top of society, to where it's acceptable. And by doing that, we are going to be literally forced the next 4 years to face the worst aspects of our nation instead of just brushing them under the rug. So we are going to be forced to either clean house or be the worst of ourselves. And he may be the worst president ever, but he may have actually finally done the one thing that this nation actually needed, which was a president to bring the worst out of us so that we can actually fix it.
But, okay. So we definitely agree that Donald Trump's, really bad, but wow. I feel like we don't have to, ruin a bunch of people's, in this scenario.
It's not a matter of wanting, Chris. We have sat here for months preaching all of the benefits of the aspects of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all of their policies and the wonderful good things that they have done, and these idiots refuse to acknowledge it. So maybe we just have to face the worst head on instead of trying to debate around it. We are going to be forced to deal with the worst aspects of our house. Whether we want to accept that or not, Chris, you're a young man, I'm not. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been facing the worst aspects of our society for a long time. And the really scary part about it is up until maybe about 15 years ago, when a certain somebody took office, we really didn't actually hold grudges against people that made those types of jokes or made the horrible gestures towards people. The reason why it's so abrasive to people to have to accept and change what we want to accept and change in society is because for so long we ignored it. And we have to and there's just as many people out there that want change as the ones that don't. So we're going to have to actually face those people. And I think that I was sitting here, I've been listening to your chat, I've been listening to Dan's chat all day, and I snapped. And I was like, well, maybe this is the best thing for the nation, is for Donald Trump to actually bring out the worst so that we can actually fucking face it.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't know where the Trump administration will take us or where it will end, but
Oh, I know the 14 steps of the F word and all that stuff. You can take me down that rabbit hole, but I know all about it. I've been here just as long as you have. And I've been fighting this shit for just as long as you have. And yeah, but maybe the best thing for the nation is that we get to face the worst of it.
Well, listen, I appreciate you doing the work to try to fight against it, and one day at a time, all right, man? One day at a time.
Protect your weak friends, Chris.
All right, Shane, I appreciate you a lot. Be safe. Okay. Yeah, that's well, first of all, Shane, I do appreciate you understanding the extreme negatives of the Trump administration. And again, I don't think this is what he was trying to say, but just in general to what the fuck, dude? Just in general to chat, I don't think that people should like be positive and stay positive as best they can. But I mean, I think that the next year is like we'll either it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be really ugly. I mean, in terms of like the question, there's really like I talked to someone today who was very, very intelligent on these topics and very level-headed. Probably not even a Democrat, but has a deep understanding of history, politics, democracy, a deep understanding of all of the political events in history. And this person essentially said, there's three possibilities. Either A, this is what's going to happen. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. In the first year of the Trump administration, there will be he will do something that a court will strike down and say is unconstitutional. And that will be the moment and the question of what happens next. Because there's a high likelihood, depending on what that thing is, that a court will say, Donald Trump, you can't do this, it's unconstitutional. And Donald Trump will just tell his people to do it anyways. And in that exact moment, we have lost American democracy. It's over. The judicial system is the law does nothing because the executive branch doesn't follow the law anymore. There's no checks and balances. We've essentially, that's it. It's fallen. We've fallen into a new pit of like, this is no longer democracy. And now we have to figure out how to operate in a system where like the law, for example, has no power and certain branches of government have there's no checks and balances. And that could get like really ugly really fast. The question is the possibilities entail how ugly they get and how quickly and how fast they go. And if Donald Trump is willing to do that. So we'll see. But I won't mince words. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. But democracy was cool while it lasted. I don't know. I had fun, I guess. I didn't really get to do much. Whatever though. Double tap the screen. Appreciate everyone being here. Seriously. You guys fucking rock. Hello?
I love you, Chris.
I think it might be time to go ahead and log off here, guys. Go ahead. It's been a good stream. Appreciate everyone being here. I'm kidding. Oh my goodness, bro.
Yo.
What's up, man?
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
How old are you?
18,
What year were you born?
06,
Okay. What's up?
February 28th.
Okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, tariffs are good. And the CHIPS Act wasn't that good.
Okay, so why are tariffs good?
Yeah, it makes it more expensive to offshore jobs.
It makes it more expensive to offshore jobs.
Yeah, it makes it more expensive to import goods.
Okay. And who's it more expensive for?
The companies.
What companies?
Companies who rely on imports.
Companies who are allowing it, so like U.S. companies.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so it's more expensive for U.S. companies. So you agree that like...
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so you agree that it's like going to cause inflation?
No. It might cause it's going to cause imports to go up, and retailers who buy those imports will make it more expensive, but they'll probably absorb that in lower profit margins and not increasing of retail prices.
Wait. Pause.
That's what most of the data shows.
Wait. Pause right there. You're telling me that a business is going to pay a higher fee to get a good into the country, and they're going to look at their profit margins and just accept that they're lower.
Yeah,
They're not going to raise prices. They're just going to be like, nah, it's fine.
Yeah, uncertainty is way more important than trying to, maximize profit margins.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I mean, I'm 6'7" and I play in the NBA. I mean, we all have just. Like,
I mean,
fantasy.
I can give you data that supports this.
Yeah, please. I mean, we all have fantasies of just like
check
shit that we
out-
can just believe that just are.
Check
never
out
gonna come.
Clivo. Yeah, check out Clivo 2019 ETAL pass through at the border rates to the consumer, evidence from U.S. trade policy.
Okay, hold on one
You
second.
can go to like page 3 in the second section.
Okay.
The impact of tariffs on goods. Ow, fuck. Sorry. The impact of tariffs on goods is like almost unnoticeable.
Okay, so let's hold on one second. Sorry, I'm trying to figure something out here. All right,
also-
give me the title again, please.
It's like I think Clevo ETAL 2019 is the author. I think it's like pass through at the border to the consumer, evidence from U.S. trade policy. Yeah.
Tariff
go to,
pass through at the.
Can you show your screen so I know we're looking at the same thing?
Is it International Monetary Fund tariff pass through at the border and at the store, evidence from U.S. trade policy?
Who are the? Can you read the authors?
Alberto Cavallo.
Yeah, there we go. I said his name wrong.
International Monetary Fund. Okay. We use
Go to
Yep.
page 3.
Okay, wait, hold on.
You can find the full PDF on NBER.
Okay. Let's go ahead and it's 37 page. How the fuck do I get to download PDF?
When you read it, would you mind showing the screen?
Yeah, I have to like turn around I'm reading like page 3. So is that is that page 1 or page? Okay, that's page.
No, it should be like page 3.
Page 5 and page 3. As discussed, next, having demonstrated that incidence of the U.S. import tariffs fall largely on the United States, we studied the extent to which the price increases faced by importers pass through into higher retail prices or were instead absorbed by lower retail profit margins. We consider aggregated categories such as washing machines, handbags, ties, refrigerators, and bicycles and find mixed results, with some sectors exhibiting clear price increases due to the tariffs and others exhibiting stable prices dynamics despite the tariffs. It is difficult to study the impacts of tariffs using such retail price index because they're at a level of aggregation that combines meaningful share of goods that are both affected and not affected by the tariffs. To get around this problem, we collect millions of online prices from 2 multi-channel retailers, both top 10 of U.S. retailers in terms of revenues, where we can identify whether or not individual goods are affected by the import tariffs. Surprisingly, despite observing a stark increase in the overall cost, inclusive of tariffs, paid by U.S. importers for certain Chinese goods, we detect only a minor increase in the prices set by the 2 U.S. retailers for these goods relative to those unaffected by tariffs. Our estimates suggest that a 20% tariff is associated with a 0.9% increase in the retail price of affected household goods, such as dishes, furniture, linens, toaster ovens, towels, and umbrellas, and a 1.4% increase in the retail price of affected electronic products after 1 year. While these estimated prices increases are economically and statistically greater than zero, they're not easily visible in the retail price indices that we construct to compare affected and unaffected imports. Our results suggest that retailers are absorbing a significant share of the increase in the cost of affected imports by earning lower profit margins on those goods. This empirical evidence shows that the idea that a more complete understanding of the full supply chain from at the dock importers through final retails, it's important to capture the full implications of any trade policy, a point made theoretically in Eckel 2018.
So I was correct.
Well, I mean, I'd like to look at like the like their you know like how they got this data. But yeah, sure. I mean, if the data is collected yeah, it looks like they used 2 online retailers, and like it was surprising how little they increased the price of their goods based on these Chinese tariffs.
Let's go. So I was right.
Okay, well, a couple things. Again, I think it's important that
I can cite more data if you want to.
No, I understand. I think that a couple things. Sorry. I think that a couple things. These are obviously going to be based on tariffs that like currently exist that existed under the the first Trump administration, which are going to be like much less widespread. And obviously we're like looking at more like a more zoomed in view of like specific industries that have tariffs on them. And in this you're looking at two, U.S. retailers or two top 10 U.S. retailers and specific items around those things. I think that like trying to encapsulate that, actually what the researcher said at the end was that we need to be able, this shows, at least if I agreed with the data in this, it at least shows that we need to be able to understand at a broader level how retailers are going to react to like a price increase. But I don't think that, as they've suggested, that this specific zoomed in look can't be replicated for, widespread tariffs. Like
so just a couple things. So there's two things I want to say, and I'll show why it's analogous in a second. So that specific study was on tariffs. If you want more evidence of tariffs, not necessarily raising consumer price indexes, but just companies like taking hits in the profit margins, you can look at the what's with the lights? Anyway, the Economic Policy Institute's analysis of like the Section 301 and 232 tariffs, they found no significant price index increases. So that's the first thing. The second thing, The second thing is just generally in the data, you can look outside the tariffs. When there is increases of cost of manufacturing a good, there really isn't that much increases of the good, of the consumer good. So we can see that with like minimum wage data. So when the minimum wage goes up, which is obviously going to raise the cost to make the good because labor costs increases, there's generally no noticeable increase of steel retail prices. And so the reason why it's important to know this is because when you're creating models to see what a flat tariff will do for consumer prices, and then you just assume that a profit markup will happen when usually it doesn't happen, then your whole model is going to be really thrown off. Like you mentioned Goldman Sachs, they did that. You mentioned the Peterson Institute's another person, they made that assumption. And see, this is the problem with orthodox and neoclassical economics. They make a bunch of assumptions because they're assuming rational agents when this doesn't really actually happen.
I do want to point out that like in the study you cited, in the conclusion, it literally says, quote, relatively little is known, however, about how economies in practice respond to tariffs, particularly when these trade policies involve large countries that have the potential to influence prices. Will the response of exporters be symmetric across countries? How quickly will prices adjust? Will prices at the border adjust similarly to prices at the store? And then, to answer these questions, we collected data and we find that, quote, despite this rapid increase in the total cost of importing goods, we found, quote, mixed evidence regarding retail price increases, which suggests that many U.S. retailers reduce the profit margin. So again, like in your study, it is actively saying in the conclusion that little is known, and we have found mixed data. So I don't know if it's like a strong argument.
I referenced the EPI. I referenced generally there's minimum wage data that shows this is the same response. They take hits in the profit margin. Okay. And we have, hold on, just let me explain. We have theory for why this is going to happen, okay? And so it's something called uncertainty. And so the problem is here is, a lot of people think that prices are like heavily responding to markets. And then when there's a market disruption, i.e. a tariff, I saw you roll your eyes, but this is pretty important.
Wait, no, I didn't roll my eyes. I was nodding.
Oh, okay. So you're like I don't know how liberal you are, but you're probably going to agree to this, but prices don't actually reflect markets that much. And we know this. So like during COVID, right? The economy was in heavy downturn. There was inflation, but profit margins were exploding. And that's because when there was all this hysteria about inflation, companies were like, oh, we can just, raise our prices more. Okay. And so the point why this is important is because the way companies set prices, what they do is they basically add up the nominal unit cost and then they add on a profit markup. It's called administrative pricing. And they do this because of uncertainty reasons. Like, if your prices are just constantly with the market, constantly with consumer prices, there's going to be a heavy uncertainty there. And so when there's a market disruption, companies can just be like, we don't really know what the effect of consumers, how they'll respond if there are increases of profits. And we know other companies also do the same thing. And so we'll take a hit into our profit margins and we'll still receive the same consumers because if we raise profits and another company, just absorbs in the profits. We'll probably have overall lower profit margins because we're attracting less consumers. Right. So that's kind of the point that I'm making.
And that makes sense. Like that all makes sense. I think that like I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that possibility. I'm just noting that like in those in those studies or even in the other things you referenced, like we're not obviously like I don't know that we've seen the effects overall in just the overall economy in something like very
we can just kind of
very broad widespread tariffs, especially in an already inflationary time. So like again, like when the Fed is like not cutting rates as fast as they were supposed to and the market's reacting really negatively, again we're in like a pretty time where like the market has gained has added to itself quite a bit over the last year and is constantly looking for reasons why the soft landing isn't actually going to happen. And so again, I do think that like a lot of that was phenomenally well explained. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And the studies were interesting and like good. I genuinely like appreciate you coming up here and showing those to me. But I do think it's important that like the general like economic consensus on something like widespread tariffs is it's a good data point, but it is obviously like not indicative of what.
Well, I'll say a couple things to that. I'm sure we can. So one thing, inflation is like at what 3%, 2 point. The Fed's hit their inflation target, I believe, and
not quite.
Well, they've it's not
close.
It's close. Well, here's one thing you got to mention is there's no real like empirical reason why you would want the inflation rate to be at like 2% compared to like 5 or 6%. I'll explain why in a second. Because inflation is actually a good thing. Just when inflation starts outpacing wages, that's when the bad thing happens. And the reason why is because when you have a depreciating currency, it forces people to invest more instead of just saving it. Because they know that because the currency keeps depreciating, it makes no sense to save it. They'll just invest more in it. Yeah. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I'd say is, what was I going to get at? Okay. So you talk about flat tariffs, and I do agree. I think tariffs are really good. But when you start taxing things like natural resources or something like crude oil, which Trump wants to do, I don't think that's smart. When it comes to like taxing lumber, well, I mean, there's only so many trees you can actually grow. So when it comes to like tariffing natural resources, that's not really a good idea. So,
sorry.
Oh, you're good. But I wanted to make this point about the CHIPS Act. Okay, so I think it was generally a good idea. I'm not a free market person, obviously, but the reason why it wasn't that good of an idea is because number one, the Fed had extremely high interest rates, and of course, interest rates are going to tamper with investment. And because of that, I understand there was a whole bunch of money, and yes, there was a lot of investment. But overall, the semiconductor deficit, our trade deficit that we're in, grew, right? So we were importing more semiconductors than we were exporting when the CHIPS Act was in full effect. And so that's the first thing. And the second thing is what we need to do instead of having this either or idea is saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a flat, broad tariff on all, not maybe all, but most manufacturing goods. So steel, aluminum, all this stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to subsidize to hell our domestic industry. Right. And I think that's probably.
Yeah, sure. So, no, that makes sense. I think that like, again, I think we're on track to have, 20% of the world's market share of computer chips by 2030, before 2022, we had 0. So, in terms of like how many computer chips we're currently producing, like I'm unclear of in terms of the private spending on electrical manufacturing in the United States. It's actually astronomical.
Yeah, I think that's a great. Yeah, I think that's I agree.
Right, compared to like any time else. So I'd assume.
And when I heard like Trump talking about wanting to cut not just the CHIPS Act, but like the Inflation Reduction Act, I'm like putting my hands in my face. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing?
I also think that like to the point about the tariffs, it also like broadly speaking, like setting aside the potential economic effects domestically that